Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Gregs coming to you with a special guest today, Inventor Lee Wheelbarger. This is the 27th of December, 2020. And today we're going to be talking about several things. Lee does a lot of live video from events taking place in the country. He is an inventor. He is an engineer. He's worked in several defense and intelligence departments in the Washington, D.C. area with a long career in those activities. Quite a background. And we're going to cover things like this. We've got some special new intel on the bombing that took place. We're going to show video describing an explosion that occurred going from the bottom up. Some people have used the same video to say, oh, this is a proof of a missile was shot down or a directed energy weapon. No, we're going to show you why you can expect that this came from the bottom up. It's pretty clear from the video. And Lee's really good at analysis on these things, also a forensic analysis of the actual explosions. He's gone through that, and we'll talk about that a bit. And kind of cap it off toward the end. I've got the phone number of the next door neighbor of Anthony Quinn Warner, Stephen Schmolt. I've actually tried to call him before this interview, and we may do a little speed dial, see if we can bring him up and see if he wants to talk to us. There's some interesting things about Mr. Smoke, so you might want to know. So this will make this interview, that might be the icing on the cake in this interview, if we can get him and if he's willing to talk, because I'm sure he's quite in demand right now, most likely. Also, we'll be talking about this. There was another event happened today with a truck that Lee covered live that it's highly suspicious that was apparently playing the same kind of music or sounds coming out of the RV, but it was just full of junk. What was that all about? And then we'll cover some other things here. One is that I may read to you a little section of merchant who had one of the stores that was blasted out. Their lamentations about what a rough year this was and how this was really killing small businesses, everything going on this year, and why we need to support our local businesses, which is something I've been really emphasizing on here for a long time. You know, buy local, spend your dollar local, vote with your dollar. And before we get into all that, real quick, hold on, Lee. I got a special run right now, $100 off of a 4-week supply of food. This long-term storage lasts 25 years. Go to prepwithgreg.com. You get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With a price like this, you'll be a winner. 2,000 calories a day. It's real food. It is freeze-dried, so it makes it portable, easy to carry. And the cool thing is you can take that bucket, open it up, and put those pouches in your backpack. Easy to carry. They're flexible and not like a big old heavy can. Sometimes cans are good, but you don't want to carry wet food if you're going a long distance bugging out. So it's a great thing to bug out with, bug in with, and the buckets themselves will come in quite useful. Prepwithgreg.com. Click the My Patriot logo, and you can go and get all kinds of other prepping supplies. If you buy through that, it helps my channel and it helps you too, because these things that you need. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Lee Wheelbarger's channel. Subscribe to my channel. I'll put a link to his channel below. Subscribe to my channel. As you go to each one, bang the update notification bell and click all, so you can get the continuation of many great videos that he and I both put on our platforms respectively. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lee Wheelbarger. So, Lee.
Well, thanks for having me, Greg. Appreciate the opportunity to come see you, my friend.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure having you on board. And you're going to share with us some video of the, we both looked at it, this another view of an explosion that's going from the ground up prior to the main detonation.
Yep. So let me share that here. So are you getting that?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay. All right. So if you'll pay close attention to this third light pole here, what I believe is that because the van arrived, the RV arrived at, I believe it's 1:22 a.m., but the detonation wasn't until around 5:30 or 6 or so. The person in the RV and had the opportunity to plant other devices around the area. And I think in one of these frames here, we're seeing one of those devices detonating. So if you look right here, it's like a pre-explosion prior to the other explosions. When I first saw it, I thought, well, maybe he had came up with some type of a MOAB type device, a air bursts and used a gas with high as the explosive,
Like a fuel
or
air explosive?
yeah, like a fuel air bomb.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe that's what it was. But when you see the detonation, the secondary detonation afterwards, you'll see that the explosion does not follow the same path as the original object coming up out of the screen. And so because it doesn't follow the same path, that tells me that that is not a stream of fuel coming out behind that. That is the explosion itself that's following it. So to me, it looks like there were multiple explosives used. You can see that in some of the blast pattern. And you can also see that in the shock pattern and the mushroom cloud coming up out of it. So you can see in the head and then the stem kind of looks a little knotty as opposed to perfectly smooth. So with that, I've got this slowed down to 0.25, so a quarter of the speed. So you're going to hear the voice in the background real slow here, but we're going to start it out and click it off. And right in here is where we want to be looking. All right, so there it is. So it is coming up. You can see it coming out of the corner of the building, going up towards the bottom of the lamp on the right-hand side of the third pole here. And so I can go back again so you can watch that come up. I'll back up, and you can watch it come right out of the corner of the building up towards the bottom of the light fixture there. Okay, so now it has continued up past the lamp, and now you're starting to see the top of it coming out of the light fixture here on the right-hand side. Okay, now it's starting to dissipate off to the right. Okay, you can still see it dissipating into so the peak of it is about here. So this is the vapor trail of it coming up. So I believe that this is when all of the devices were detonated, they were done, and some of them had a little bit of a delay in front of the other. They were all within a second or so, but there was a slight delay. So if you're using a wireless detonator, the receivers, if they're on a save mode, a battery save mode, that means that they're not constantly receiving. That means that they receive periodically every 1/10 of a second or what have you. From the time that the transmitter came on until each of those receivers had actually received that transmit signal, there's a little bit of a delay in each. Thus, then you've got relays or whatever else within the detonator to cause this delay in here. So now we're going to start seeing the remainder of the explosion coming up. So there it is. It dissipates, and here's the remainder of it. This is the secondary. And so here you can see that it's definitely more significant than the first blast. You also see that the top of the plume is to the left side of the light post as opposed to the right side. So we can see that it's not following the same trajectory as the first detonation.
Well, it's real handy. The light post laying out a grid pattern for us.
Absolutely. So it's growing in that area, but this is much, much larger. And it could, actually at it here, it could be right up in the middle was a fuel layer like that.
It's bright white. Now it's mushrooming up, heat balls rising.
But what gets me is look how much more plume we've got out here on both sides of the stem. So that tells me there's more than one, or then this is fuel. You know what I'm saying? But that kind of dissipated off to the right, and this didn't follow it. But
yeah, I've actually seen another image of that leader a little bit bigger. It looks like looks like you can see it dissipate in the air, like a smoke trail of a rocket or something. I was wondering if it was a piece of debris that got flung up from the initial explosion.
Correct.
Like maybe the top of Maybe he used a pressure cooker as a detonator or something, and maybe that went off first. I don't know. Maybe the
Yeah.
lid went flying in the air or something like that, or just a piece of whatever it was. You
Yep.
know, I've seen debris fly from explosions, and sometimes you'll see a smoke trail leading behind a piece of debris or projectile.
Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So that's the second there. So if you want to, I mean, where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to?
Tell us about that little van excursion, and I got a couple of things I'm going to show.
Okay, so the Wilson County Sheriff's Department in Tennessee pulled over just south of, I believe it's Lebanon or whatever it was, Tennessee. They pulled over it looked like an older model, like 80s, 90s model Grumman service van. You know, the ones we always see down around Redstone. So
panel truck, just panel truck.
Yeah, well, this was a one of the, it was a Grumman one rather than a but yeah, so
yeah.
it looked like a Grumman.
Grumman,
but anyway,
used it by defense companies a lot. I worked for Grumman
right,
5 years, by the way.
So it's one of those trucks got pulled over. They arrested the driver. They suspected there might be explosives in it, and I can see why, because you look back into it, you can see when they opened up the back of it, there were looked like drums, like those blue, like 30-gallon or 25-gallon drums, but these were red in the back of it. So I could see where he could have suspicion of that, especially with what was already going on, and if it were related to this event, thinking that there's suspicion of this individual because he has, and he's might have been good friends with this other guy.
What struck me about that was just prior to that going down, CNN, Fox News, they were coming out with announcements that the bomber was a lone bomber. He acted by himself, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly you're seeing him chasing someone else. It's like, okay, the authorities don't have a lot of confidence in that announcement. Somehow their confidence somewhat less than absolutely spectacular when they're out chasing other things and other leads. So that's not a shut case, apparently. So the news might like to come to conclusions, but the laws and the investigators apparently haven't bought into it.
Well, they've got over 500 leads, so they're going to be chasing down a lot of stuff for a long time.
Exactly. So I think it's premature how the news agencies keep coming out with to tell you what's going on when they don't really know.
Right.
And we see that all the time, and they act so authoritarian. And I have been involved in a number of things that sometimes I think I'm doing, and they report on it, and they get it so wrong, and they make gross errors. So if anybody's just taking everything the news says verbatim, then you better do some homework, because it's seldom right.
Yeah.
Seldom right.
And they never correct themselves. I mean, we get it wrong on our news broadcast every once in a while, but we always go back and correct ourselves.
Bingo. Try to. Alrighty. So that's most interesting. Do you have any photographs from that van chase? Anything you think is worthy?
Yeah, I can actually go back and let me get something here.
Maybe real quick. And what I want to do is I want to go in and show you the guy's place, and we may try to call the neighbor.
Let me go back here.
Then I'd like to just read a little bit from one of these store owners, because I keep telling everybody to vote with their dollar and vote local, buy local, support these small businesses, because the small businesses are being decimated right now, and small businesses are our means of having self-sovereignty. If they're having everybody work for the big corporations, our freedoms are at grave risk. Why are you looking for that? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Lee. Just talk.
Well, let's see.
Some of us know you, but not everybody does.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been an inventor for a long, long time. I invented the helmet cam for the U.S. Army Telemedical Command. I worked on Land Warrior Digitized Soldier Program. I was the senior technologist for the U.S. Army at Fort Benning, Georgia. I was transferred to CCOM, Communications Electronics Command. I designed things like the flyaway system, the WIN, Warfighter Information Network system. or network and network tactical, any soldiers that were deployed in the late 90s over in Iraq or Kosovo or anywhere else, if they were making phone calls home at Christmas or video conferencing or had internet service or were issued a cellular phone or a sat phone while they were deployed, all of those things came out of my office. Decom.
Based on my brother. My brother used to work with some of that stuff. Ed Allison, he worked out
Ed,
of.
yeah.
Huh? He worked
Yeah.
out of. At the end, he worked out of McClellan, Fort McClellan before he shut down.
Okay, believe I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah, he worked on that stuff. So he had been in the Army. He was a civil servant at that time. He passed away this year with the COVID-19 though.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. All right. So we had this little panel truck down in the bottom of a hollow here, and it had a whole line of cars like what we're seeing on one side was on the other side too. And we can see that little robot there, the little bomb disposal robot. So tell us about this, Lee.
All right. So somebody said this was ATF, but actually it wasn't. It was U.S. Army EOD. And so Wilson County Sheriff's Department pulled over this vehicle and they ran the robot down there twice. They tried to ram to break the glass out of the window and they couldn't get in. So finally a third guy in a bomb came up and went in and searched the vehicle, looked in the vehicle, figured that there wasn't explosives in the vehicle. This is the, you've seen a disruptor charge, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they put a disruptor on it with a really long barrel so they could reach in to get to whatever it is what they wanted to disrupt. But they couldn't get through the glass with it. I guess they hadn't figured out that you can put a automatic punch on the end of your barrel there, and when you place it against the glass, it'll shatter it for you. But anyway, so but that's all they had to do to it. They couldn't get in. So this guy came in, opened the van, climbed up in it, nothing in it. They let it go. But they had FBI, ATF, the state police, highway patrol, as well as Wilson County Sheriff's Department on scene, as well as a fire truck and an ambulance. Had this highway shut down for a decent amount of time, but nothing to it. And they did take the individual into custody.
What did they charge him with?
I do not have that yet. They didn't release that. And by the way, they did tow the truck away as well. So it was impounded because they had no tags.
No tags. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
and they say it played this recording.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So it was like, but I have not heard that. Well, I played live audio, listened to the live audio from this camera for, well, as you can see here, an hour and 49 minutes. So at least an hour and 45 minutes. I never heard anything come from the vehicle.
Well, what I heard, now I don't know. Some people were saying it was playing the backup, the evacuate warning. It might have done that. But someone also said it played the music that had been playing earlier from the RV. And someone said the RV before it started playing the evacuate warning was playing the song Downtown over and over. You remember the old hit from the early 60s, Down. Mm-hmm. One of my mom's favorites, so that's kind of freaky. Yep. So apparently they played that, and allegedly this thing played that too. Maybe, I don't know. But before I got in the chase, somebody said, "Hey, there's a white truck driving out there playing the same music," and I'm going, "Really?" And next thing I know, they got it pulled over. So, is this guy just a copycat? Why would he do something like this? I mean, get himself. I mean, that's kind of stupid just to be driving around playing the same music in a panel truck that could be concealing something right after an event like this within 2 days. Now, does that evoke this guy was actually connected, or is he just trying to get attention?
Or do we know that he did that? Because I have not heard the reports of the music.
Yeah.
I can't tell you that. I've listened to it. I've listened to interviews. The interviews I have listened to are from people that were directly across the street at the time. And evacuated out when it had counted down from 15 minutes to 8 minutes. It took them 7 minutes to get into their vehicle. And then it had continued to make announcements down to the countdown. And then it didn't explode. And it continued to make announcements after that. and then finally it exploded. But there's in all of the accounts that the witness testimony that I've heard, none of them has said anything about music. They've all said that it's a digital voice. I've heard the digital voice.
Heard that. I've heard that.
And they've all said that it was repetitive and that it was tones and so on and so forth, and that they believe that the sounds of gunfire were
In the recording.
were in the recording. Yeah, they were not actually from there. They said that there were shell casings found on the ground, but they believe that that was from after the explosion, because the officer that was walking around the vehicle at 6 a.m. did not report shell casings on the ground. So that hasn't been reported. So they think that the shell casings that were found spewing around were actually inside the vehicle when it detonated.
Interesting. Could have been.
Hmm.
So that they well, a major announcement is that they believe that they have done a DNA test on the remains found, and they say they match Anthony Quinn Warner.
I had not heard that.
Yep. So that's the news. I should have said that up front. They believe it's a match, and for whatever that means, that suggests that it was him. Apparently, they've not found him anywhere else, or his van anywhere else, or RV. I always, for some reason, I kept calling it a van. I've got a bus that fits out as an RV, and I sure hope the heck that this don't cause a whole lot of consternation about having RVs.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it will. It's absolutely insane.
I'll make sure not to paint it white.
Yeah.
I'll paint it green. Green bricks. All right.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just so disconcerting. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to my share now. I'll share from my side here. And I didn't open that file. Let me kill this share. Start it over. I gotta get this file open. Then share it. Give me a second. There we are. I'm in.
Yes.
I'm actually in right here, Google Maps. And I actually found, by looking up the guy who was a neighbor from an interview, and actually somebody else sent me some data on him, I was able to pull up where he lived. And of course, there is Andrew Warner's place. And there's the van right there. There it is. I mean, we could scroll around here, zoom in and out, as you can see. So the neighbor lives right here. These are duplexes from all appearance. And here is Warner's house. And he had a much bigger yard. Got this van in it. Or
camper. RV.
Looks like you don't have a good curb to drive it in and out. Oh yeah, he's coming from the other side. I've seen it from my area.
Yep.
We can go aerial here too. But so this is a highly curious thing. It's definitely right here. And when this picture was taken, apparently it'd been there for some time. And if we were to talk to this gentleman, he could tell us, maybe it disappeared the night before, or some intel like that about it. Now, this gentleman works at airport. He works at the Nashville airport. He maintains the runway itself, according to his LinkedIn site. I've seen his LinkedIn site. I've seen his Facebook site. His Facebook site, the wallpaper for it is actually looks like a merchant shop from downtown Nashville, of all things. Interesting. So let's see how we get out of this little street view on this thing. I'm used to using Google Earth. Oh, just got another picture here. I'm more accustomed to using Google Earth than I am my Google Earth's crashed on me. All right, that's about all we're going to do with this thing. It looks like I'm having some issues with it. I'm going to kill this. But yeah, there's other video here, just of the blast and other views. And I'm going to give this guy a call. Of course, there's the RV. It was driving downtown. This is interesting video here. You can see people walking by as a blast occurs through this window. Play on this or not.
Our primary objective as a company.
No, we'll scroll down. It's playing automatically in another view down here. Here we go. It'll play automatically here. It was doing it earlier. What's going on with this? Maybe my memory got overloaded. There's some video playing from the smoke. after the fire. You can see the downtown area looks pretty rough. Yeah, there's still a lot of damage, a lot of damage. Now, apparently these buildings, a lot of them were actually built before the Civil War. And so it's thought that they may not be, they may be structurally unsound and something you can't rebuild. Here we go. Now we're about to see. Look there. Somebody's actually walking by here when the blast occurs, and somebody's standing right here. I wonder what happened to these individuals. I said 3 individuals were injured by this.
Okay, so yeah, so that is, if you can, I don't know if you can pause it there or not, but what that is that's a gentleman with his dog, and that the gentleman walking up from the right to left is a police officer.
That's a police officer.
Yeah, and so the guy had heard it, and so I saw the interview with the guy and his dog, and he says the police officer walks up to him and says, "You've got to leave the area right now," and he says, "Why?" and then it detonated.
You shouldn't have asked. That's probably the problem. This should be the video to play it, but it's going to take 10 seconds. I've got to watch an ad, and the heck with that. I don't want to do all that. This is out of the Washington compost. Let me kill that.
So which video did you want to see?
Yeah, I was trying to pull that one out and make it look better, but never mind. That's kind of junky. There's some other video in there. So this is the area of the blast. You got trees falling everywhere down this road. This is the AT&T building. A lot of allegations about what this building was used for and how that might have pertained to the blast from either the left or the right. It could have been a target of either one. Yeah, I'm going to kill that. That's just not getting me what I want here. Anyway, I'll stop the share. Might be worthwhile to give this gentleman a call. You want to try that? See if I can get a hold of him now. I tried him earlier.
I don't know if I want to do that because
Well,
I don't know if I would want to get the call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of interesting though. He, what was sent to me on him suggested he actually had, well, he was actually, let me see if I can pull this up. I had it on my cell phone and somebody was trying to call me, and so I sheathed it. So I'll pull it back up. What I had open here. So in this profile, one of the profiles that was pulled up said he's an explosive user blaster, and it says at, and it don't say where the at is. So I'll show you that. I'm gonna scroll it now. Here's one side of it. It's Stephen Schmolt. That's not focusing well. There we go. Now when I scroll it to the left, work. Now I know he works for the airport. Both of them is LinkedIn and other data, but it says, don't say what he does other than maintaining the runway. But here it says explosive user blaster. Explosive user blaster. I don't know about what you think, Lee, but I find that highly interesting that he lives right next door to where the RV was parked, and he's an explosive user blaster.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. I'm sure there would be other people that would like to talk to him.
Yeah, that struck. Well, I'm not gonna get a focus here. Don't worry. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
That looks highly suspicious to me. That's one of the reasons I was wanting to call him. That, he may be okay. It may not be a problem with him, but I'm not accusing him of anything. But it's highly interesting that he's got that experience living next to the guy who supposedly made the bomb that detonated much of a street downtown, the whole street really. And that's I have heard in the past of people being set up and basically being killed and having their body thrown in a vehicle and tied up, and then when it would detonate, that the remains would be there. That's something that's actually, from what I've heard, happened before in other cases. You remember that case where the guy was in the what was the destroyer in the Persian Gulf when the Iranian airline flew overhead and he shot it down?
Yeah.
And he got persecuted for that. but it flew right directly overhead, and he gave a warning to them. And there was a real tense period. And
well, he was under attack by Iranian gunboats at the time.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So he got really, it ruined his life after that. But a naval guy told me this. He said when they pulled the bodies out of the so-called airliner out of the water, he said they were all chained together. They're already dead. The whole thing was
wow.
Now I can't verify that was either true or false, but that's what a naval guy told me about it. He said, he was out there. He said when they pulled the bodies out, they were chained together and they're already dead. So you just never know about these things. I mean, what really happens sometimes just don't make the news. It don't get carried. Of course, he could have been blowing smoke, but why would he if he didn't have any reason to blow smoke at me? But you know what? You've been around a lot of us service guys. I was in the Army at one time, and we see things, and a lot of times, and it just don't get out in the public.
Right, most of it
doesn't. Out there is vastly different from what we see. So, as an Army guy listening to a Navy guy, I was kind of thinking, there might be something to what he's telling me. I'm sure you've heard in similar cases in your life to that. Oh yeah. But so I don't know. It just makes me wonder. Somebody could have set somebody up. It could have been entirely a setup, So the patsy to somebody who was, and the easiest people to set up are the loners. This guy apparently was alleged to be a loner. Or again, he might, some people think he targeted the place because it had a certain kind of machine that was destined to go there. That was known for counting certain things. And some people, so that might have suggested he might have been on the left side of the spectrum trying to prevent something from happening on the right side. But then again, there are those that say, well, it's because it was an NSA site and he was worried about the control. And so that would have suggested it was on the right side. Then it's also said that he was all worried about 5G. And that's what the story coming out of the media is, worried about 5G. It might have been, maybe he did do all this. Maybe he committed suicide and just hunted a good place to do it. Ancillary to his main objective, it might have been because he gave some woman 2 houses trying to lure her back from California and she didn't take the bait. 63-year-old love-struck man giving houses away to some girl that didn't come. Maybe he was trying to get her to come back from California. I mean, yeah. So who knows? The guys get obsessed over a woman and what giving her 2 houses. Holy smoke. And so I don't know. So there's a lot of funny things there. We don't know. I'm not saying it's this or that, but I'm saying that there's a lot more going on that potentially there can be a lot more going on that we know. Like we were just talking about, there may have been multiple devices out there. Or it could have been, maybe it was just a detonator, the main bomb, 2, 3-stage detonators, use a smaller explosive, set off a bigger explosive, explosive, and that first one shot that projectile up. I've done rocket motors and we stage ignition sometimes like that. We had the hybrid motors I did, we had a fuel grain that we'd want to get a hot vapor in there before we hit the oxidizer. We used laughing gas, and our first igniter, which was also holding the valve back, was just a D motor, solid rocket motor from like an Estes motor. It was a good size one. It was a D motor, a good chunk of fuel. Yeah. But it lit a section of a J motor, and that J motor is what really put all the heat down the interior of the hybrid fuel cell. And it was just a casting, a solid casting of hybrid fuel. And we've used different type of fuels. We used a more advanced type fuel that used in the weapons, dropsill terminated polybutadiene, HTPB. And we also used asphalt. Honestly, asphalt was far better. Had better regression rates, burned a lot better. And, we get it in chunks and break off pieces, shards of it. People don't think of asphalt this way, but you can break off shards of a big chunk of asphalt with a sledgehammer and melt it down. And you'd be surprised how hard it can be before you do that. And then we would cast that into a fuel grain. We'd pull a vacuum on it, get the bubbles out of it, have a rod in it, and weigh it up. I've done some of those on my back porch, just right over here. Cast fuel grains. But so we'd have a 3-stage ignition process to get then we'd hit the oxidizers. The laughing gas would flow into it, and it's already hitting the hot fuel vapor, so it would ignite. Now, with laughing gas as a igniter, if you did it the other way, you would actually.
Well, it's nitrous oxide, so it's the same as people use in their racing trucks. Bingo. Whereas that you can do the exact same thing with LP and a diesel.
Bingo. So the thing about the nitrous, you could actually put the fire out if you hit it wrong. So you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to use the oxidizer to put the flame out. But it's still an oxidizer, and it's not as safe to handle as some people thought with the Spaceship 2 example when they did the cold flow test and killed 3 guys. One of them used to work for me, Glenn May. So, yeah, I've had experience with these things, explosives and rocket motors and detonators, and so I know about different stages that you use for some of these things. Of course, I was in the military, and we had grenades and other ordnance, and dealt quite a bit with the EOD guys. You said that was an EOD trailer. Yeah,
Yep.
Good guys in the EOD. I
Yep.
got a lot of respect for the EOD community. We used to have an EOD school right here at Redstone Arsenal, but they shut it down. I moved it, I guess, somewhere else.
And they've got one at Benning also now,
Yeah.
right next to the airfield.
Yeah. So I guess it's all there now. But they used to have a big EOD school here at Redstone Arsenal, and I knew a lot of guys that went through there when I was in the Army. So, and some of them came back. It's kind of funny when I got out of the Army to see a lot of guys I used to see in the Army coming back because they had that connection here with the community. So, especially when you come up from a remote place like Fort Greeley. All right, so I want to kind of go through one thing here, and it's I tell everybody on my channel that it's really important to support your local businesses, because when you have your own business, whether it be a store, a shop, or a farm, you are more independent than you are when you're working for somebody else. You got more sovereignty. And there is a thrust, an arrow in our society today to make everybody subservient, have nobody working for themselves, nobody independent. They want to increase the dependence of everyone to get us all into the system and to promote globalism. And I'm against that. I'm thinking we need to do as much as we can to promote independence, self-sovereignty, to help people having their own businesses, growing their own food, and not be subjected to the man. And furthermore, they're creating an elite class of uber rich billionaires, like the guy, with Amazon, with Jeff Bezos and crowds like that. And so what they're doing is they're shutting out all these businesses. In our society, we've had a path where anybody could go from the bottom to the top. And if you're in the lower class, there was a ladder you could climb all the way up to the top. What they're doing is they're knocking all the ladders out and just leaving an uber poor lower class and an uber rich upper class. That's what they're trying to establish, it looks like. Now, we know what's been going on and the bug going around for since March of last year, that the guys at the very top have got far richer, and the guys in the middle have been decimated and wiped out. And then down here, people are getting poorer and poorer. So yeah, we're buying everything through the internet today, but we're wiping out jobs, we're wiping out any means of hopes of advancement. And so they're teaching us now with this global reset that, they had videos out for a while promoting the idea that, I have no privacy, I own nothing, and I've never been happier. That's a bunch of bunk. What that means is you're a total stooge, you're totally controlled and subservient to whatever somebody above you desires. You have no recourse for anything, especially with social credit systems and all these other things coming out. So the best way to buck that is to buck it now while we still can. They'd like to eliminate private property. So if we nip it in the bud, we still have a chance right now. Right now is our last best chance of maintaining or being human, just being human. You're going to be an ant if you're lucky, if you're deemed worthy enough to be a slave worker ant in that future. I'm going to do a video soon talking about, I've seen some stuff out there saying that, once they get all the robotization and going, they're going to basically not want anybody in the world. They want to depopulate it. So yeah, they make it sound like they're trying to help everybody. They want to give everybody money and live.
Well, they're going to find out it's not as easy as that.
Yeah,
because when you go to automation, robotization, so on and so forth, now you've got to have somebody that knows how to work on the robots. Now you got to have somebody that makes the parts for the robots. Now you still got to have somebody that carries the parts there from the robots. So you're not getting rid of anything really.
I work robotic systems on the International Space Station. I did robotic systems integration. And so I know all about the power data grapple fixtures, utility rails, distribution systems, a special purpose Dexterous manipulator, its RU tool change up mechanism, the space station remote manipulator system, its latching in effector, the MRS it rides on, the control systems, and their collision avoidance systems, the visual systems, the guides, the targets, the visual cues. I know these systems. And so I have known robotics for some time. I started in this field back in the 90s, early 90s, in fact, 1990. So I have a 30-year history in robotic systems integration. All that.
Your robotics history is a little different than mine. Mine was teaching robots how to put materials into other containers,
Very
and then
different.
how to stack all of those, and then the robotics of picking up ordnance off the ground and doing surveillance.
We come from two different sides of this,
right? Of the same robot, yeah.
We're going to add credibility where I think we're going here. What I try to tell people is that you do not, you're not going to have a robot go into a house and tear out plumbing or wiring and replacing it. No robot. Even if 30 years from now, with Ray Kurzweil's singularity, the robotic systems are not going to be at that level of sophistication. Right. And another thing,
we've just now got them to walk and jump, to be able to have the processing ability on board to go, oh, it's this wire that's bad. I need to figure that out down there. Yeah, we're not there yet.
No, we're a long way from that. And something else Ray Kurzweil misses is that he looks at the exponential growth we had for all these years of Moore's law, and he just extrapolated that into infinity for another several decades. But what he forgot is that organisms grow according to Moore's law in a petri dish too until they reach the edge of the dish.
Right.
Once you've used up the nutrient or reached some other physical barrier limit, that stops. So the limit here is physics. There's only so far you can divide down. Once you get down to having wires and atom width, it's hard to make a wire smaller than an atom.
Right.
So there's real limitations to what he was aiming for, and that's what you get out of eggheads like that. They get some crazy idea and they run away with it and they forget to match it up with practicality in the real world. So I think that's where guys like Lee, you and I come in. We can put these things in context for people to see. So I'm not as scared of AI as a lot of people because of that, because I realize that there's
right.
It's more artificial stupidity, and it's got limits.
Yeah, lots of that.
Yeah, now we got stupidity without artificial stupidity.
Well, and the thing is, it's like I was talking to a guy the other day, and he calls me. There's a special group of guys that do things out of DC, and I'm what he calls their soothsayer. So when they try to do a special project before they spend millions or whatever it is, they call me and say, Lee, this is what we want to do. What do you think? And I'm the guy who says yay or nay, or you've got something, or you've got to be crazy. One of those two or something there in between is what they get from me. So, because it's like we were talking about, the young guys haven't made all of the stupid mistakes that all of us old guys have. So they're wasting millions of dollars doing the same stupid crap that we did 30 years ago because they don't know what we know. And, my dad once said that I was the most underworked and overpaid person that he'd ever met in his life. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I'm retired and I still work twice as much as you. And I said, well, Dad, people don't pay me for my brawn. They pay me for my brain. People pay me for what I know to do and what I know not to do. And I gave him the example, and he goes, what do you mean by that? I said, well, there was a military experiment out in California, and they had two vehicles out there that had these really highly sophisticated sensor systems on the outside of them. And they were testing them, and they didn't call me to come in as a lead technical integrator or, technical advisor. And so one of the vehicles went dead. And so they came over with another vehicle, still having all of the sensor packages turned on, plugged the slave cable into the second military vehicle. And when they went to crank it, the voltage spiked from starting it, fried like $2.5 million worth of equipment on each vehicle. So jump starting a vehicle costs $5 million. I said, so it would have been a whole lot cheaper to have me there to say, you don't want to do that, than it was to replace all of the sensor packages on those two platforms.
Yeah,
So
you
that's,
might not have charged them $5 million.
I probably wouldn't have. I mean, I'd have surely done it for about half that anyway. So anyway, those were the types of things that I used to do. I would go in and oversee the testing and make sure everything was done appropriately and not blow up things that were not deemed to be blown up. I remember we were at a training exercise down in Benning one time, and a guy calls me up and says, Lee, I need an IED up here at the office. Okay. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I run out back and I'm grabbing up propane bottles. I'm getting all this stuff. I'm trying to make an IED. And he calls me back and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm almost done. Give me a few more minutes. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm making you an IED. He goes, no, I just need a prop. I'm like, oh, you should have said that. I'm trying to take the building out of the wall out of the building for you here. And you're telling me that you just need a prop. So I just got him a couple fuses and some wire and a couple bottles of propane and taped them together with duct tape and put the wires around a pencil and pulled them off so they looked all coiled and stuck them in there. So he was happy then, but I was hoping we were going to blow something up.
Let me do a little screen share real quick. I want to show you guys a Word document that I pulled this out of Facebook just so I wouldn't have my memory aid up here. And this is a report from a merchant there in Nashville who had his store blown up. And he's talking about what's been happening to the merchants. And he says, as you can see, what was is no more. It's senseless, heartbreaking. It's memories, hopes, and dreams. It's hard work. It's risk. It's loss. And on Christmas morning, it all came tumbling down. For us, 2020 started like all years: hope, optimism, and new beginnings, new challenges. Late in 2019, we decided to move one of our stores and completely renovate the other. January and February 2020 were filled with construction, painting, moving, and staffing, and true whirlwind of activity and excitement right up my alley. The end of February, one store got a facelift after 10 years, and the other a new location. Let the tourists come, and they came, and it was all good for 2 weeks. Then he said, you know what hit? The CO word. I'm not going to repeat it live. And they said, safer at home. All non-essential businesses ordered to close, and we comply. While big box stores, where everybody goes in big crowds, right, selling the same merchandise, remain open. To reopen, we're told to provide a safe customer environment, and we comply. We buy thermometers, sanitizing stations, masks, install loose sight barriers, and mark 6-foot indicators on our floors. And 2 weeks after Safe at Home unfolds, all major music, sport, and conventions previously scheduled scramble to cancel. And this is in Nashville, of course. By the end of March, we had our traditional start for tourist season. Retail, restaurants, and bars are given the green light to reopen with imposed mandates, limited capacity, social distance, masks, and no live music became our new norm. And for the sake of all, we comply. For 6 more weeks, April through May, we were asked to be closed, and due to our part in flattening the curve. It said, for the sake of all, we comply. Let me scroll this bit. He says, finally, on a beautiful May day, we were allowed to open our doors to tourists. No people, no nothing. Well, there's nothing to go to, and everybody's scared. After a couple of weeks, people start to venture out, and we were happy, but it doesn't last long. Protests following the George Floyd death inflamed the country. Protesters march up and down 2nd Avenue, and Mayor Cooper says, let them go. It's their right. Businesses close. Windows are smashed, and stores are looted. And small businesses, us included, pick up the pieces, replace and install bars in their windows, and are told by Mayor Cooper, this too shall end, and you will be safe. The roller coaster of what you can open at this capacity or that be open until this hour or then continues throughout the summer. Obviously, just get a lot of challenges. Our businesses are down 75% by the end of July, and we're living off savings since March. We're lucky. We are the lucky ones. Our doors are still open. And we're told by Mayor Cooper to remain strong, mask up, adhere to the rules. All this while his public is caught over inflating the numbers and to keep the boot on the necks of the Nashville small businesses. Now, again, I'm reading what this guy said. It's not me saying this, but this guy is shut down because of this, and then he's going through a lot of turmoil. Late October, government officials beat the drum for holiday travel bans. Shop online, not in person. Stay at home and limit your contact and to intermediate family only. Small business included shuttered as we watched reports record earnings by Amazon and big box retailers. Well, we barely hung on. Yeah, he said. Well, then we had you know what? They're supposed to take care of all this. We'll highlight it. I'm not going to read it out loud because just saying certain words here will get you. Whether you're for it or against it makes no difference. There is hope. It's Christmas, and maybe we made it through this horrible year. And he was wrong. He talked what happened Christmas morning. So, and he's here talking about how that these buildings were predate the Civil War and they're expecting they're not going to rebuild. And essentially, let me stop this share. Essentially, what's happened here is these people have had their businesses decimated. Most of your businesses only survive on 5% margin. They don't have a lot of margin for profit. I mean, they're paying their people, they're paying the lights, they're paying for the inventory, and they got to resell it. And because they're trying to be competitive, their profit margin is in terms of gross overall sales typically is around 5%. And people mortgage their homes, they go all out to create a small business, and they do that knowing full well that in 7 years, only 1 in 7 businesses are typically open. People take a big risk. They take a chance because they have a dream and they want to make it come true. And so a lot of people that aren't in business don't understand what these businesses have to go through. Other businesses pay for everything. Businesses pay for everything. They can't. So maybe the big ones, but all these small businesses are struggling. But these small businesses have been the main employers in America. They've been the place where our innovation comes from, the jobs, the innovation. And it's those small boutiques that are, you know, would you rather walk down to a town, all these small boutiques, all the neat little things they have, or be stuck in a big box store? I mean, that's your option. That's where you got, or have to get everything off the internet. I mean, it may be okay to shop internet sometimes, but I like to try things on personally. But more than that, it's who you meet, it's the people. I think it's very important, as I said, to support these small local businesses simply because they buy you a chance to have independence in this country, self-sovereignty, and for us not all be sucked into the hive. It's a proposition on my channel. I tell people quite often to help my subscribers survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And this fits in the stay out of the hive part of my paradigm here. So every time you get a chance, every time you can, buy local, shop local, be it from the local farmers, local artisans, local boutiques and shops, or if you've got to have somebody come work on your house, call the smaller operator, not the big guy. The big guy's getting all kind of stuff pushed to the city council, so the little guy's got to get 21 different certifications at about $1,000 or $2,000 each just to stay in business, and making small margins. It gets to be really difficult for them. But what you get is not more safety. Oh, this comes with all the certifications. Yeah, but that exists at the corporate level, and that's just a little overhead for them. They hire kids and send them out, and they don't know jack diddle about your HVAC system, whatever they come out looking. Oh, we got to replace the whole thing. That's just $10,000. Whereas the good tradesman that used to come out and say, oh, that's just your solenoid valve here. Shoot, let me bang on it a couple times, and you'll be running them. The service fee for showing up, or maybe it's a $5 part. That's what I used to deal with. But you don't find that anymore. And these kids often are not good at wiring things. I've had some really bad hack jobs done by them. So I don't have a lot to say and to glorify and amplify that process of all the safety. I work safety, by the way, now on the space launch system on the Artemis 1, and the whole Artemis system. I'm also working on other vehicles coming up, and I've done other. This is just the project I'm working on currently, and I'm doing a lot of the ground support equipment safety on that. But I'm doing avionics safety. That's what I'm working on right now. I've done avionics and things my entire career, rockets, robotics. But I can tell you that you're not buying. These guys aren't buying you any value added. What they're doing is they're bringing you an inferior product at a much higher inflated price, and they're stomping out all the independent people. All the small.
There's no service.
There's no service. Exactly. All you get is replace.
Well, I talked to a guy the other day, and I'm not going to say his name or his company name, but he was telling me, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. And so we were talking about going out and servicing people who had off-grid solar systems and people who were having systems that they had purchased that were failing. And what has happened is the people who have engineered these systems, they've engineered them using lithium ion batteries or lithiums, and they've engineered them for the average, not peak. And they've engineered them to not have to deal with this cold weather.
Oh my,
Okay. So they're not designed for Colorado.
they're
Okay.
underrated. Yeah. Yeah.
Or the Rocky Mountains. So now the systems have, for safety purposes, they have BMSs on it, battery management systems. So what happens is the guys take the batteries out there, they install the batteries, they've bought this, it's, you know, 30, 40, $50,000 for this kit. They get it in their house, they get it all installed, and guess what? Now they've got 2 or 3 inverters stacked on that. The air conditioner cuts on, or the refrigerator cuts on, or something else with a, you know, a rotor stall load cuts on, which is 7 times the normal current. The battery management system goes, oh no, that's too much current. Even though it's only just instantaneous, the battery management system sees it, freaks out, cuts off the batteries, and now what? You're sitting there in your house in the dark. You got no heat, you got no power, you can't call anybody, you can't do anything. And it's because some guy somewhere in some big company that thinks he knows about power and solar designed something for you, and that's not how it works.
No, we're all
So,
has surge currents. Anytime you start anything up, especially
yeah.
if it's an AC system, it's reactive. It's going to pull current. You got to hit it. You know, motors need to start a capacitor or something to give them extra oomph to get them kicked in.
Right. The rotor stall concurrent. So if you're,
Bingo.
what people don't realize is that a motor that will run under load at 1 amp, to get that motor started under load, can require 7 amps.
Yeah.
So you have to engineer that. And that's why generators don't run efficiently when you hook them to motors until you hook them to my battery bank. So there's you know your way around Redstone pretty good, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I can't remember what the road is. It's not the main gate, but it's the one you come down. You know where the Patriot battery is. So there's a Patriot battery sitting outside of a brick building. It's a Patriot missile battery. You come around a curve, and
Yeah, they used to have one
there.
there used to be one on Wind Drive that was downtown. Not downtown, before you get to the Arsenal. We used to ask for the Patriot.
No, this is way on post. So if you come in, do you know where Recon Optical is?
No.
Where it used to be.
No.
Okay, so anyway,
some of the Army roads, but you know, we got NASA, we got the Army. Now the FBI's coming in real big.
Oh yeah,
there's going to be more FBI on the base, and it will be Army and NASA together when they get done. Looks like.
Well, they're after $500 million for new construction.
Sure, they're building like crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, they built like crazy at Quantico, and they're running out of space.
So what are they doing with all these guys?
More than they should be. Things that they shouldn't be. Hiding things that people should be able to see. I mean, that you would not believe what has been hidden from us as the American public. And presence. The thing that gets me, and this is, you know, I'm not trying to go down a different rabbit hole here, but a lot of the tools that they have used against this administration are toys that I helped create or work with or install or what have you. And so they've used this against Trump. Well, now Trump, because he has good old General Flynn and Admiral Rogers, they now know how to use all these toys and have been against these folks who have been doing bad things. So that's all going to come out here in the very near future.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've also heard it said that Trump moved a lot of these people there to get them out of DC. He was trying to get the better guys away from the DC environment, get them away from the swamp. So I don't know.
This is true too. He wanted to distribute the government out all over the country. And in fact, there was a lot of people in the Department of Agriculture that had issues with that and just flat out retired as opposed to moving.
Oh, they don't want to be near the farmland, huh?
Right.
Hey,
I'm in
you know what?
agriculture, but I don't want to see any fields.
Well, you know what? You know what's really funny? Answer me this. Why is it there's more people working in the Department of Agriculture than there are farmers in America?
That's because the Department of Agriculture does a whole lot of stuff that has nothing to do with agriculture.
I would say it's somewhat less than an optimized, efficient operation. Anyway,
Yeah.
what else do you expect from the government?
Yeah.
All right, Lee, I need to run. I've got a birthday party to get to. I don't know if I'm going to get this posted before I leave or not. It's getting to be it might be challenging. But I appreciate it. I really appreciate all your insight. It's good to have you on the channel again. We'll have to do this more often.
Yeah, likewise. You do a lot of stuff I want to interject on, but I see you too late. You've already posted it. You know, it's like Rex did a show the other day where he was talking about, oh, the nuclear codes might have been lost in this hack on the internet. And I'm like, no. And he's like, what do you mean no? And I'm like, they're not on the internet. They're not on the ZipperNet. Nuclear codes are in that site. They're not anywhere else. Okay. You know, the only thing that you're going to see, the only thing they would be able to hack is the code going across. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because it's not there. But you know, just like we got the Stuxnet virus and the centrifuges ran. That wasn't on the internet either, but they use these things. That's how you
Right.
power grid.
Right.
You got to have some wet person to walk in and do it. And that's where China has exceeded because they have.
But see, this is my point about this. If you're going to hack the ZipperNet, where did you tie in? So what if you put that thumb drive?
That's distributed. It's distributed, broken up.
Right. But where did you get contact to the internet? Because the ZipperNet does not talk to the internet.
No.
You've got to be on the ZipperNet somewhere.
You got to go the hardware. You got to be inside the system. You got to get in the
right. Exactly. And you have to have a physical connection to that network.
But see, here's the thing. We just discovered we have 2,000 members that we had 2,000 members of the Chinese Communist Party working in the United States in the government and in our defense companies and commercial companies right here, just taking probably trade secrets and secrets left and right. That were some news made about that. That wasn't a giant announcement. To me, that's bigger than this Russian hack because they got on the inside. I think that's far more dangerous. And I just saw a journalist put out named Bloomberger's that he thinks that you know the solar wind Russian hack was an act of war and we need to retaliate. I'm going, oh my God, this guy's a nutball. We're going to have World War III if this guy gets his way. But I'm gonna do a special on that alone because it's just nutball stuff. I'm of the opinion we ought to make peace with Russia and build an alliance to contain China. China's far in the long run far more dangerous. And we don't want to fight Russia though because they got weapons that are the Poseidon torpedo has the Sarbama as its detonation device or as its bomb, and that's a tsunami generating device. And they just built a second submarine that's capable of carrying 6 of those things on board. So to have 12 things that can create a tsunami in the whole coastal area, plus there's probably other carriers out there because they had another version earlier. So I don't know how many Poseidons they built and filled it. I've got to research that. But that is very threatening. That new hypersonic weapons. We don't want to get into it with Russia. But Russia is long term. If they get into it with us, then they got to deal with China too. They know they're long term enemies, China. That's what I'm saying. We ought to be able to make peace with them and use them to help us contain China from being too assertive and aggressive. All right, I got to run.
All right, my friend. You have yourself a great evening. Thank you for everything. Enjoy it.
Thank you for coming on. We'll have to do this again in not too distant future. And
I'm going live almost every day now because
All
I've got fatty. Let me see what I got. I'll show you here real quick. Let me see.
That Eddie guy from New York or something.
No, I got internet speed.
Oh, so you got internet. You got some internet where you're at.
Oh, dude. So let me show you here.
All
Can
right.
you see that? Can you see that?
No, I'm not seeing it.
All right, there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's something now.
68 down and 9, almost 10 up.
All right, so you're ready to rock and roll.
So yeah, if you can't stream with that, something's wrong.
Well, I got to work on my interface between my Google and my Zoom. Alrighty.
All right, be good, buddy.
All right.
Take
Thank
care.
you, and have an
All right,
awesome day.
all right, likewise. Bye bye. Merry
Bye.
Christmas.